Hey guys, I'm Rayon. All right, guys. Hey, I'm Rayon.
I'm Arian.
I'm Harsh.
I'm a B.
And you're watching Buzzer2Buzzer. All right, guys. Thank you so much for coming in. Today, January the 14th, is our first ever live stream, which we are doing through Buzzer2Buzzer. Starting in our 500 subscriber special, we had a lot of requests for doing a live stream. And one of the reasons why we've never actually done one is because what you saw at the beginning. It's a bit more of a fun-filled, it's uncut. We're all going straight from the heart. It takes a lot more emotion for sure while we're all going at it. But, that's what makes a live stream sort of fun. And after a couple months thinking about it, planning it out, we're doing it for the first time ever. Our first ever live stream. So thanks for coming in today. We got a bunch of cool things to talk about. A lot of NBA developments and NFL weekend divisional round coming up as well. So thanks for coming in. And first things first, how about we get started with the events which transpired last night? That being, if you did not already check out our video from yesterday, we were recording our divisional round predictions, and we got the news. Actually, Arian broke the news to us that James Harden had been traded to the Brooklyn Nets. If you want to see our live reactions, that's in the piece from yesterday. But guys, if you're not already found out, which I'm sure you already have, the Brooklyn Nets have acquired successfully James Harden, and it's a 4-team deal. In turn, the Houston Rockets got Victor Oladipo, Dante Exum, and one more player, and a bunch. And when I say a bunch, I mean a boatload of picks. They got 4 draft picks. They have 4 draft swaps as well. And it's looking like the Houstons are stacked. The Rockets are stacked for the future, along with the Nets. Now, the 2 other teams involved in this trade were the Indiana Pacers and the Cleveland Cavaliers, with the Pacers receiving Karis LeVert, along with the future draft pick, and the Cavaliers getting Jarrett Allen and Taurean Prince. Now, guys, obviously there were a bunch of teams involved. A trade monumental, I think, to say the least. Our thoughts, and from the past 24 hours, thinking about everything which has gone down.
I remember a couple months ago, when the whole James Harden wasn't really being a good leader, and he wasn't having good chemistry with people with the Rockets, and he really wanted to get out of there. And everyone was like, oh, he's going to go to the Nets. And I guess yesterday it finally happened. The news broke out. It was confirmed. And this is huge for both teams, Rockets and Nets. And I really feel like the Rockets got a great deal in terms of what they exchanged for giving away James Harden. And what's going to be really interesting is to see how James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving all play with each other, how they're going to work, because they're all ball-dominant players, score first over passing. So they're going to have to change their playing styles if they want to succeed.
Yeah, this is a major reason. I don't think they are going to succeed. I don't think Kyrie Irving, James Harden both can share the ball effectively. We saw what happened with James Harden and Russell Westbrook in Houston. It just didn't work out. And Kyrie Irving is the same type of player. I think one of those could have worked with KD, but having both of them on the same team, I just think it's going to be very difficult to share the ball for those two.
I think there's a lot of skepticism when it came to the Nets having KD and Kyrie on the same team, but they've made it work. When Kyrie does, I guess, choose to play, they've been winning games and they've really been producing. So I think when you add James Harden to the mix, it's not necessarily going to be that KD and Kyrie have to play with Harden. It's going to be they're going to work around each other's strengths and become better as a team. Obviously they all realize that they won't all get the ball as much as they did, Harden did on the Rockets or KD did when he was with the Warriors. So moving forward, I think they're going to build around what suits them the best. And it might take them a few games, but I think they'll be able to be successful.
I think there's a bunch of things associated with this trade. Firstly, you got James Harden talking where he wants to go. It's sort of become a precedent now. When a superstar demands a trade, they go where they want. We've seen it go down with Anthony Davis and New Orleans Pelicans, the Los Angeles Lakers. Now James Harden saying he wants to go to the Brooklyn Nets, and he's gone to the Brooklyn Nets. For sure, in terms of talking about winners and losers, James Harden is the obvious winner. going to reunite with his old pal from OKC, Kevin Durant. It's going to be interesting to see how those two play down. And also a bit confused as to the Houston aspect. For sure they got some, if you think about it, they only got Victor Oladipo, the main player, along with some other players as well, Dante Exum. But I think the Rockets are more looking towards the future, the long term. In the short term, they knew that with James Harden, all this going down, they got a new coach Stephen Balas. He has to manage a new team, new faces, and having all this added drama wasn't really about to help him. So I think that getting rid of James Harden was the perfect move in a sense. Sure, I think we can all agree he's one of the best players right now in the league, top 10 for sure. But I guess it was the right move to make in order to better the team culture. And I feel like that in the coming years, not this year, we're going to see Houston improve to a better extent. But how about we talk about the other side of this trade, going down with the Nets. We got one Kyrie Irving where nobody, not even Stephen A. Smith, doesn't even know where that man is. We got Kevin Durant, and now we have James Harden. Now, all three of these players, except for, I guess you can say Kevin Durant, these guys have been pretty ball-dominant players, ready to score offensively. James Harden's favorite move, guys, we know, run down the shot clock, pop the three, and most of the time, it goes in. How do we see the Nets playing out? And especially taking into consideration the first-year head coach, Steve Nash.
I don't think they're going to be sharing the floor that often. I think they're going to use him more as a utility. I think it's going to be more of a six-man main rotation. The starting lineup, we know it's 5 players, but they're going to have 2 of them on the court at the same time. Obviously, when it comes down to it at the end of the game, they're going to put all 3 of them on the court because you need somebody who's going to make a shot. And you have 3 guys, your chance increases. But throughout the game, I think they're going to be using a 6-man rotation. They're going to use Joe Harris. They're going to use DeAndre Jordan throughout that lineup effectively. And so through that, they're not going to have all these players on the court at the same time. So it's going to be mostly 2 at a time. And so they're going to be able to move the ball efficiently.
Obviously their chemistry on the court is crucial. And in order for them to succeed, they need to have a good ball movement. They need to pass and not always shoot first. But off the court, I think that's where that's a key factor in how they're going to be a good team. Because as we know, with Kyrie Irving, he had a whole toxic locker room. Whenever his teammates were in the locker room, he was just not a good leader. He was always blaming others, and he definitely can't do that with Kevin Durant and James Harden. So, and if he does, that team's going to fall apart. They're not going to succeed at all, and we're going to get an OKC with Melo, Russ, and Paul George. High expectations, but then not really proving their worth, and that's going to happen all over again.
I think it's going to be especially tough for Steve Nash. As a first-year head coach to deal with 3 megastars like Kyrie, James Harden, and Kevin Durant is going to be extremely difficult. As you said, Kyrie's known to being toxic, and in Boston, we heard so many stories, so many rumors, and in Brooklyn last year, he wouldn't show up. As we're seeing that this year too, he's not showing up for whatever reason. He's not even letting them know why. So I think it's going to be especially difficult on Steve Nash to try to right this ship and see where it goes.
Exactly, guys. We know 3 players. So all 3 players, heck of a players. Each player individually has their own player set and own attributes. But I'm a bit worried for Steve Nash. It's going to be 50-50. On one side, it's either going to work out super nicely, and the Nets are going to make it out of the East. Otherwise, it's going to be a catastrophe. Harsh, we were saying something?
Yeah, no, I don't think the situation is comparable to the Thunder that we saw 3 years ago with Paul George, Carmelo Anthony, and Russell Westbrook. That was really a 2-team with one dude who's past his prime. Carmelo Anthony was nowhere near what he was when in his prime in New York. And when he got traded, he was, again, past his prime. And he didn't fit because they didn't have a place for him on the court. They were forcing him into the lineup to be a starter. And even when they moved him to the bench, he shouldn't have been that high up in the rotation. And it cost them to waste minutes on a guy who wasn't proving to be as efficient as the minutes led him to be. And that was the main reason why they failed there. Paul George and Russell Westbrook, they were relatively successful as you can be in the West. And, Damian Lillard did what Damian Lillard did to them, but at the end of the day, they were a pretty successful team when it was just them 2.
Guys, it looks like the Nets are obviously looking at the short-term play. They got Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving under contract till the 2022-23 season. And now the question has to be asked that if the Nets do not make it out of the East, meaning they do not make it to the NBA Finals, is this a busted season? Does this season go by like we saw to the Clippers last year, how they went out? What should the Nets' goal be? Is it the NBA Finals?
It has to be the NBA Finals. I think it's finals or bust. You don't go out, trade your whole future away to get a player like James Harden and not expect to win the finals. Obviously, the Nets are an organization that made a move like this a long way back, for Kevin Garnett, and it didn't really work out. I think the Nets are looking for a finals here, and I think if they don't get it, it's going to be a massive, underwhelming season.
Yeah, like as you said, Rayan, the Nets are just thinking short term right now. They just want instant results, and like I have to agree with Aryan when he says if they don't win the finals or get like to the NBA finals, it's gonna be a season that's not that great and looked down upon. Because obviously this is such a huge trade, and so many players were involved, and so many teams were involved, and the Nets only got James Harden. They didn't get any like draft picks or anything like that to build up their future. They're all just looking for this year, and they want results. So they definitely have to prove their worth this year and win the finals.
All right, guys, and we got a bunch of awesome activity going on in the comments, guys. Thank you for dropping your thoughts. Enzo is asking a question about, is the Houston city cursed in terms of sports? Guys, we covered the trade which happened a couple months ago with DeAndre Hopkins, Bill O'Brien, and we'll talk about Bill O'Brien, something which just happened very shortly. But him trading away DeAndre Hopkins, and now the city of Houston getting sort of robbed of their star player, their only star player of the city, James Harden. Our thoughts on the city of Houston?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it's a curse, but they just have terrible management in both. You know, you're looking at the Houston Texans with DeAndre Hopkins and Deshaun Watson this year. I mean, they're just not able to keep their players happy, and it's as simple as that.
Yeah, horrible management as far as the Texans. As far as the Rockets, I mean, I don't really know if trading James. I think trading James Harden was the right move, honestly. Like I know, like the whole locker room atmosphere when the Rockets was just really bad with James Harden. He was not being a leader. It was similar to Kyrie's situation, and that's why he wanted to get out of there. And you can't have a player on your team that doesn't even want to be on that team. So it was definitely, I feel like it was a smart move trading him away. And so I don't think the Rockets are going to be cursed. I just think they're trying to rebuild and look ahead in the future.
The way this Nets team is built, they're not going to be sustainable for more than 3-4 years. And these picks that the Rockets received in return go deep into the late 20s. And so looking at that, they're going to get at least 2 top 14 lottery picks out of these Nets team, probably in 25 and 27. And they have those pick swaps for 3 years in between. So they're really building for a future here. And with John Wall, Victor Oladipo, and DeMarcus Cousins, they're sort of, putting up a fight.
Harsh, you bring up a good point. The salary cap is still a thing. And it's crazy to think how 3 players like this have been fitted. And, in the upcoming season, the Nets are going to have to start dealing with the money issue. They got Spencer Dinwiddie on one hand, who is supposed to be paid like $12 million, and then his extension, who knows if that's even going to be a thing. You got 3 stars, and I think we can all agree all 3 stars deserving of a max contract. So money is for sure going to be a thing in the future. And guys, speaking of Bill O'Brien, we were just talking about him. Enzo just dropping the news like he is Woj out here, telling us that Bill O'Brien is heading to Alabama to be their new offensive coordinator. Now, guys, we all know Alabama. We just made a video last week. Alabama coming off of a national championship. Nick Saban 7th. The program's, who knows? They got so many already now. But what do we think? The former GM, head coach of the Texans, heading to Alabama at the collegiate level? Our thoughts?
Honestly, I don't really think it matters who Alabama's offensive coordinator is. They get the best recruits in the country. They get the best players. I mean, we saw them last year and the year before. I mean, every year they have a great offense, great defense. And so I think this is a good move for him. If he can light it up at Alabama, he could probably work his way back into the pros. But, as for Bill O'Brien, I think he's going to be just fine.
They call Alabama rehab for former NFL coaches. Steve Sarkisian, he was there for a few years as their offensive coordinator, and now he's coaching at Texas. So they sort of have a roulette. Every few years they lose a couple coaches, but they bring somebody in who could run that offense. It's not a difficult offense to run because you just got to throw the ball. Somebody's going to be open. But it's a great move for Bill O'Brien to sort of rebuild his career after a horrible tenure in Houston.
It was very interesting to me. I had just some quick thoughts I've had. Enzo broke the news. Thinking about it, Nick Saban, I feel like is one person. If that one person is enough for the Alabama football team, he's built the program from the ground up, and I feel like Bill O'Brien, sure, he can help. But a bit interesting move by Alabama to bring in a former NFL GM head coach, and I was surprised to see he's not continuing his future with the NFL. We got a lot more comments going on. People talking about Michael Jordan being the GOAT. Well, that is highly debatable, if you guys know and have watched our previous videos. Something we gotta love talking about. But how about now we sort of shift topics? We've talked a lot about the NBA, talked about the Brooklyn Nets and the events which folded out last night, but we got to acknowledge the upcoming events for this Saturday and Sunday. Guys, you know what I'm talking about, the divisional round weekend. Last week was a lot of fun. We watched a bunch of games. We covered them as well. You can watch them in our old videos too. But guys, this weekend we got some divisional round games going on, and we've already covered our predictions, so I'm not going to talk about that too much. But I want to ask, what is the game which we are most looking forward to?
You know, I think the game that I'm looking forward to the most is the Packers versus Rams. Obviously, we have the best, I think, the best offense in the league versus the best defense in the league. And Aaron Rodgers, obviously the top MVP candidate right now. Aaron Donald, probably the defensive player of the year candidate right now. So it's going to be a great game. Jalen Ramsey on Devontae Adams. It's going to be a great game to watch. And I think that it'll be a very close game. So that one's good.
You know, for me, I think it has to be Tom Brady versus Drew Brees. Saints Bucks. I mean, that's a classic, division rivalry. The Saints have clapped the Bucks twice this year already. And obviously the Bucks have a sour taste in their mouth. Tom Brady in the playoffs is obviously the greatest player to ever play. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see whether or not, the Saints have his number. So I'm very interested to see if the Bucks can bounce back against the Saints.
It seems like we're going in a different direction with this game. I mean, I have to pick the Browns and the Chiefs. The last time Patrick Mahomes and Baker Mayfield played, we saw what happened. That Big 12 matchup, they threw for 1,500 yards combined. Patrick Mahomes tied the NCAA football record for throwing yards. I mean, you can't go wrong with it. Their defenses are similar to a Pac-12 defense or a Big 12 defense anyway. There's no secondary. This game is going to be all offenses, and I won't be surprised if both teams score more than 50 points each.
Exactly, and I'm so excited for this. Like you guys talking about the Browns and Chiefs game. Enzo's also excited for that game. We all know, guys, that matchup between Texas Tech and Oklahoma, which went down in college. Patrick Mahomes making the record, I believe, for most throwing yards, like 700-something scrimmage yards. That was crazy. And, we're talking about offensive firepower, nothing more than the Browns and the Chiefs. I feel like the Browns really kind of do have a chance. I did go with the Chiefs this week, but it's very possible, I feel like. The Browns, although it's going to be the largest difference between seedings, the Browns, Baker Mayfield, never know what they can pull up with. We got some more people tuning in. Thanks for coming in, guys. George, SX Gaming, what is up? Thank you for coming in. We got Enzo asking about the Randy Fitchner's firing.
That's the Steelers offensive coordinator just got fired, Randy. Honestly, I think it's mostly due to the fact that they couldn't run the ball at all. I mean, their running game was obsolete for the whole year, and so you have to have Big Ben in some way, and I think for that reason he got fired.
Yeah, especially when they couldn't rely on their passing game with Big Ben and him being inconsistent all the time. And when you have a talented running back like James Conner, they're hardly utilizing him. It just wasn't working. So I think that this was expected, and we have to see where he ends up and who the Steelers get as their offensive coordinator next year.
This coach, he's gotten a lot of hate over the past 2 years for being god-awful with the New York Jets. But as an offensive coordinator, he's been pretty successful with Peyton Manning in Denver and giving Jay Cutler probably one of the best years of his career in Chicago. I truly do believe if the Steelers do move and get Adam Gase as their offense coordinator, they'll definitely play better. No saying how much better, but obviously moving on from Fitches was the move for them to make. And Big Ben, when he started calling plays, that was the only time they were successful this year. And so bringing in a guy who knows what he's doing, obviously didn't have the best tenure with the Jets, but I think he'll be able to turn around in Pittsburgh.
It's an interesting move. At the beginning of the season, when they were 11-0, somebody asked, would you expect the offensive coordinator of this team to go down and be fired? I'd say 100% no. But that's another thing which looks like pretty interesting. I know that the defensive coordinator for the Steelers also has his contract winding down. And seeing the offensive coordinator going out in this type of fashion is a bit interesting. That he led the team to such a good start. Sure, was not the playoff outcome they expected. I feel like not. If the Chicago Bears can give Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace one more chance, I don't think there's any justification for the Steelers not giving Ryan, if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, Randy Fitchner an extra chance. I feel like one thing was missing, the run game from the Steelers. And if they develop that would be such an amazing thing. A bit interesting, And speaking of Chicago, a bunch of other things going down there as well. We got Enzo talking about the Steelers offensive coordinator. He ruined the team. All pass, no run. That is very true. That's something we talked about in our old videos as well. The run game is something they lacked. They beat the Colts because Ben was calling the play. Ben Roethlisberger at the position. We got George asking us for our best wide receiver of the season. We'll get started off. Abi, your best.
There's no question. This season, Devontae Adams. I mean, the 18 touchdowns. Obviously, when Aaron Rodgers is having an MVP season, you know what Devontae Adams, his wide receiver one, and honestly his only wide receiver, is gonna pop off. So definitely Devontae Adams. Yeah, for sure.
You know, I think Devontae statistically was the best receiver, but to me, the most shocking for me was Stephon Diggs. You look at him in his season. He led the league in receptions, led the league in receiving yards. He didn't get all the TDs, but that's because they have a very explosive offense. Him and Josh Allen have developed a connection like second to none. I mean, they've been probably first or second best wide receiver quarterback duo, and I think that's going to continue for years to come.
I'm surprised you didn't say this, but the boy DK. No, I'm joking. Although I do love DK Metcalf. Speaking in terms of the whole season, there's nobody else. Devontae Adams has been torching the league up. It's crazy. It's something we don't see that. It's something we don't see that often. I guess you could say Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. That combination is lethal, and we all know once they get going, there is no stopping them. Now, one thing which makes this weekend's game matchup between the Packers and the Rams interesting is that we all know Jalen Ramsey is going to be guarding Devontae Adams for most of the game. So do I think Devontae Adams is going to get locked down? No. But do I think we're going to have a bit more, physical matchup? 100%. So I'm excited for that. We got some other questions coming in as well. We got people asking about the Urban Meyer signing. Guys, we all this morning, Urban Meyer going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Thoughts?
I was kind of confused by this hire, if I'm going to be completely honest. Look, Urban Meyer has stated in the past that he's had health problems that for that reason he retired from Ohio State. Obviously, we had the whole scandal with their offensive coordinator and whatnot. I really thought that with them getting Trevor Lawrence this year, I thought they'd go for more of an offensive head coach, someone like a Brian Dable or Eric Bieniemy, someone who could coach Trevor Lawrence to make him a great quarterback. But I don't think this is a terrible hire. I'm gonna be waiting to see what he does in Jacksonville.
I think this is pretty risky. Urban Meyer hasn't coached since 2018, and you're bringing in a generational talent with Trevor Lawrence with the #1 overall pick. You got to get off on the right foot. With Joe Burrow, it was a big thing. If he actually wanted to go to Cincinnati a few years back, and Zach Taylor sort of convinced him. If Trevor Lawrence isn't happy in Jacksonville, they might have blown one of the worst seasons they've ever had in franchise history. And so, moving forward, I would have thought it would have been a better decision to bring in someone who's more renowned and who has been in the league for longer, like Brian Dable. This is Urban Meyer's first NFL coaching job, so this could go horribly wrong and could set the precedent for a bad tenure for Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I think we can all say that it's one of those elite college coaches making the jump to the NFL, something we've seen lesser and lesser of. But it's interesting, Mr. Urban Meyer, he hasn't coached for a while. We all know he has 3 national championships. Ohio State, great coach back in the day. But I'm not going to say anything yet. I feel like that we just got to wait and see how the Jags pick. I think we can all agree or we know where that first pick is going to go. But if he can develop the upcoming player, we all know Trevor Lawrence well. I feel like the Jags have a good and a sort of bright future in play. We got Enzo asking us, TJ Watt or Aaron Donald? Ooh, talking about some tackles. Guys, both these guys are phenomenal. I think personally for me, I got to go with Aaron Donald just because of how long he's been doing it now. He's been torching it up. Last week, we all saw what he did to the Seattle Seahawks. Abby remembers that. I think he still has nightmares, so any condolences in the chat will be appreciated. But we all know last week, and he didn't even play the second half, I believe, and he was phenomenal. I'm going to guess start off with B. Aaron Donald or TJ Watt?
Taking off any bias I have, obviously, against with the Rams playing the Seahawks last week, I'm going to have to give it to Aaron Donald. They do have very similar stats this whole season, and I understand if people pick TJ Watt here. But I'm just talking about overall impact on a team. I mean, Aaron Donald gets triple teamed every single day, and somehow he manages to have the tied for the most sacks this season. The past 3-4 years, he's been unstoppable, and the value. I think that overall he's the best player in the league, like out of any position. So I think definitely Aaron Donald for this one.
I mean, yeah, you can go with TJ Watt. He's really good for sure, but I mean, Aaron Donald is just Aaron Donald. He's a different beast. There's a reason why he's won so many Defensive Player of the Year awards. And like B mentioned, I mean, he's made a living off sacking those great quarterbacks in the NFC West. Aaron Donald has just wrecked the league as soon as he entered it, and I think it's going to continue.
Aaron Donald has been one of the best players defensively in the league for a long time. But this year, TJ Watt was even better. TJ Watt hasn't been that amazing as Aaron Donald has these past few years, but this year TJ Watt has put on a show. He's leading the league in sacks. What he does for that Steelers defense is insane. After Rashawn Gary went out, he kind of had to step in as a vocal leader on that defense, and he filled that role. And that Steelers defense has played amazing all year. And so, to see that TJ Watt has had an impact at such a young age, he has to be the defensive player this year of the year.
For sure. And, guys, we got a bunch more awesome comments, chat going on in the comments as well. But our main goal with this live stream, sort of uncut, is to keep it under 30 minutes. So we're just going to answer a couple more questions. And then, it's been going nicely. So if you guys like this format, drop your thoughts in the comments. And we can for sure continue this in the future as well. We got some people asking about the Bears. I think we're going to keep the Bears for another day. We got a lot more thoughts. So I think that's going to go on for a lot more time. We got Not You Again Games talking about Barry Sanders is the GOAT. Barry Sanders is a true legend. That's totally fine. We got – so Woo has been asking us for a while now, who is the GOAT in the NBA? And I feel like the last 5 minutes, let's wrap it up with this. I'm going to let the people who don't know the right answer get started first.
This is so obvious. It has to be LeBron James. LeBron James has been so good at his position for so long. You look at LeBron James' impact on the court. He's 35 years old, 36 years old now, 36 years old now. And to play it like the way he does, it's just incredible. He's got 4 rings. He's probably going to win one more this year. It's upcoming. I don't care about the Nets. And the Clippers are the JV team of LA. So the Lakers are going to win it all this year for sure. He's going to get that 5th ring. And for sure, he's going to become the undisputed GOAT if he beats the Nets this year.
First I just want to clear up that Arden's kind of been joking here. He does not believe LeBron James is the GOAT. He thinks Michael Jordan is, as do I, and me and Harsh also do. This is a huge debate, and we've talked about this so many times prior to this recording. Yeah. But I definitely think Michael Jordan's the GOAT. Regardless of how many championships he's won, how many scoring titles, how many points he put up, what kind of player he was, he was more valuable, I feel like, to the Bulls. 2 consecutive 3-peats, that's insane. Just his playing style, he was unstoppable. No one could guard him. Defensive player of the year. Just everything he was amazing at. And his mentality, too, obviously, was crazy. Rest in peace, Kobe Bryant, but he kind of got his game inspired from Michael Jordan. So, I'm going to have to go with Michael Jordan on this one. LeBron James is definitely my second greatest basketball player of all time. But, MJ is definitely the GOAT for me.
B, you can speak for yourself when you say I think Michael Jordan's the GOAT. I don't really know if you can decide between one or the other. They're both players that are very different. They've been asked to do 2 different things. LeBron's always been asked to run the team. He's always been asked to run the floor, be the floor general. Pass the ball when it's needed to, get the rebounds when it's needed to, and score the ball when it's needed to. Michael Jordan, he has one of the greatest offensive scoring abilities of all time. So what he did there is he got Dennis Rodman to get his rebounds, and he went out there and put up buckets like nobody else. And so to say that one's better than the other is a comparison you can't really make. And so for me, they're both in sort of the top tier of one, and they sit there side by side.
It's a valid point. I'm not going to say harsh or wrong there. It's 2 different eras, 100%, 2 different ball games we're playing here. The leagues in terms of refereeing, it's changed a lot. In the comments, we got people saying George talking about MJ, not you again. Game saying LeBron, and LeBron is the right answer. Ari, I don't know if you meant it or not, but LeBron James is the undisputed GOAT. Do I feel like that any disrespect for Michael Jordan? 100% no. He's obviously one of the global icons who made the NBA a global thing. But in terms of talking about pure skill and the team impact, LeBron James, we all know. You want to see my rant? Go back a couple videos. He has 4 rings. The bottom win is number 5. If he wins number 5, these guys cannot say anything. They know that. And LeBron James, 36 years old, torching up the league, still an MVP conversation year by year by year. Man is going to play till he's 45. There is nothing which stops this man. And I feel like
to speak to the MVP conversation thing. Michael Jordan won the MVP at that age, and he won a final. So to say that LeBron's winning at the same age, it's not really comparable or advantageous to LeBron in any way.
The oldest age which MJ won a chip was 34, yeah, and LeBron won his chip last year.
35. That too in a pandemic. I don't see Jordan winning in a pandemic. LeBron, he's been doing it consistently for as long as you can remember. So, LeBron, I don't understand what the argument is here. He wins this year. He's putting himself in a class above MJ.
How is he doing that? if MJ's already won more? Like, how is he putting him in a class?
No, I don't think solely goats are divided
But
up
then
by
you're saying
rings.
your opinion on who's better is literally riding on this chip. You're saying if they won the chip, then
Well,
LeBron's
because
already-
that's how everyone brings it up. You know, oh, he's got 6. I
Yeah,
think 5 is a close enough number to 6. You know, 1 ring isn't. Oh, well, you're just cast aside. I think
exactly.
if you get close enough, I think your other accolades make up for that 1 ring. And I think because of the way LeBron has been such a figure, he's got to be the GOAT.
When has almost been the standard for great? You know, you're saying he's close enough. I don't think bringing up championships is valid in any way. LeBron has played against different players, and Michael Jordan has played against different players. So I don't think bringing up championships at all is relevant in any way. I was just speaking to Rayon's fact of he's winning at such a old age. Not to mention that Michael Jordan played in college. He didn't have as many years as LeBron did to develop and accustom to the NBA.
Well, that's
LeBron came
that's
out of
how
high school. LeBron came out
of high school.
Okay, LeBron
Right.
came,
So he did it in his 12th season. Michael Jordan did it earlier in his career.
Yeah, but Michael Jordan had more time to develop.
yeah,
in college.
we
LeBron
all
just
know
came out of high school.
Only ball.
Developing for the NBA is better in the NBA than in college.
Okay, I'm a bit confused as to how, if a player coming, LeBron was coming out of the same.
You develop better for the league that you're going into if you're in that league.
Right, but it's not you can't just be thrown into the fire like that. You have to work your way up. And LeBron, from year 1, boom, right away, he was one of the best players in the league. MJ, without Scottie Pippen, did he ever make it to the finals?
What was the record before Scottie Pippen got there?
0-9. He was 0-9 in playoff series before Scottie Pippen got there.
Guys, this is a debate which we honestly, us four could go on all night if we really wanted to. But, we got people talking about some shoes. Grandma Lemons George got some fresh taste in shoes. People asking us for our favorite Jordan collection. I think for me, the Jordan 1s, classic, so many different versions. Same for you guys, I'm assuming, right?
3s for me, for sure.
Yeah, it's got to be 3s.
We got
I don't know much about shoes.
Harsh, you see Harsh the man, he just does it. He just rocks it out. We got Nacho again. Games talking about the refs cheat to help LeBron win. The refs never helped Jordan. Come on, man. Don't do me like that now. Come on. Don't say that, man. LeBron, I mean, you got to acknowledge the refereeing is much different. Back then, it was so much more physical. I mean, no blood, no foul. Back then was the motto. This year, I feel like for not only for TV purposes, they got to keep the game a bit more PG. And it is what it is. You can't really change it. Shaq said this a lot, but that's just a fact which has come to be. Rest late and great Kobe Bryant. So about to be a year since his death anniversary. May he rest in peace. And I feel like that is going to bring, we reached almost a 35-minute mark, guys. Today was our first ever live stream happening with Buzzer to Buzzer. We appreciate you guys. We reached almost 10 people coming out today. That means a lot to us. Truly means the world. Thank you so much for coming out, guys, today. Hopefully you guys had a good time. We love talking with you guys. And if you guys like this format of us talking on a live stream, uncut, we laugh, we talk. Please drop some love in the chat. Let us know if you'd like in the comments as well. If you want us to do future versions of this. We had a bunch of fun. Thank you so much for coming out, guys. Once again, have a great weekend. Catch you guys on the next one. See you guys.
Thank you.